Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our guest today is Colonel Michael Brewer, who is the current commander at AEDC. He's been in command now for 4+ months, and in town maybe a little bit longer than that. And so we want to talk to Colonel Brewer and find out a little bit more about what he's been up to and what's going on at AEDC. AEDC, of course, being a primary employer in the area and someone that we're always interested in where they're going. So, Colonel Brewer, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Give the folks a little summary of your background, which is pretty impressive.
Well, thanks. Well, it's sort of nice to be in Tennessee. It's almost being back home. I was largely raised in North Carolina, so coming back to this type of area. And the Air Force, I've seemed to spend most of my career out in the Southwest, so it's nice to be back in this part of the country, and it feels very much like home and what I'm used to being at. So I started, well, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but about 25 years ago, pilot training, and then first operational assignments in Lakenheath, England, flying F-111s. From that, I transitioned to the test community, went out to Edwards Air Force Base for test pilot school, and then spent the rest of my career, the next 10 years or so, operating tests out at Edwards, and then most recently down at Eglin Air Force Base, where I was the test wing commander, and then now up here again. I didn't realize it's already been 4.5 months. They've gone quick, so yes. 4.5 months.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, you mentioned the F-111, but you've flown 2 or 3 other planes. And
I have.
I think I saw something. You had 2,500 hours or 3,500 hours? Or
yeah, somewhere around that 3,500 hour mark. To be honest with you, I'll stop counting at this point. But I've had loads. One of the benefits of having gone through test pilot school is you get to fly a bunch of different airplanes. For ones I've had most of the time in, or be the F-111, F-15, F-15E Strike Eagles primarily, F-16s as well, and then a sampling of a bunch of other aircraft. That even got one time was test pilot school, and we got to fly the Goodyear blimp for a little bit. So I've got 0.1 hours of Goodyear blimp time. So
okay, that should be a bit of a change. Well, with that, folks, we need to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard because residents matter most.
This is J.D. Oliver here at the Smokehouse on Mount Eagle Mountain. My sisters Betsy, Nancy, and I'd like to thank you for supporting our family business for over 50 years.
Hello, this is Stella Parton, and I am standing here right in the middle of Jim Oliver's Smokehouse restaurant. But you need to come in here. We just got through doing a show. We also have a music scene going on here, and I want to invite you to come down because it is your mountain destination. Music on the Mountain in Mount Eagle, Tennessee.
My name's Betsy Oliver. I'm the kitchen manager here. We serve a lot of ribs and barbecue and fried chicken.
Hey, this is Sean Mayer, and I just want to let everybody know to stop in at the Smokehouse if you're ever on your way to Chattanooga or Nashville. They not only have a great gift shop, awesome food, great entertainment on Saturday nights, but beautiful cabins to stay in. Check it out.
Make the Smokehouse your mountain getaway destination. Stay in one of our 84 lodge rooms and 20 timber frame log cabins. Look around our trading posts and eat in our delicious restaurant. Enjoy music on the mountain every Saturday night featuring the best of Nashville. Our family hopes to see you this year at Jim Oliver Smokehouse.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Colonel Michael Brewer, the current commander at Arnold Engineering Development Center. And Colonel Brewer, I noticed in the paper recently that you were on a list of people approved for a general star, but you're not wearing it.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, that's the normal process. So actually, it's quite fortunate. It was unexpected for Debbie and I, so we were pretty excited about having the opportunity, particularly when it comes unexpected. It makes it a little bit more special as well. So for us, obviously, the process, you've seen the first part, which is to be selected by the Air Force. Then that goes up, and you are either confirmed or not confirmed. And we got through the Senate confirmation piece of that, and now I wait. At this point, I don't know how it works. Someone will give a call to me at some point, and then we'll execute and figure out what the next thing to do is.
But you're not sure when that's likely.
I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think anyone's going to be kicking me out of the door in the next week or so. So I think you'll have to put up with me for a little bit longer.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. The ordinary tours of 2 years are short enough, so hopefully, well, I don't know, you're probably going to be happy to get that star, so it's a mixed blessing here. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about the reorganization that's recently been announced, where instead of being development center, you're going to be a development complex, and instead of reporting to AMC, we'll go through the Edwards operation, whatever that's called. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the significance of that, and the pros and cons? Maybe?
Sure. For us, frankly, it is not going to be that significant change. Now, it's a bigger change across the command. So why did we do this? So we were a little bit out of balance across the command. We had about 12.
You're talking about the materiel command.
Right, Air Force Materiel Command. Right. Thank you. So not our local command, right. Air Force Materiel Command. So we had about 12 centers, of which Arnold Engineering and Development Center was one of the 12s. If you go and take a look at the other commands across the Air Force, the equivalent of a center is a numbered Air Force. And most of those were structured with 3 or 4 numbered Air Forces in a command, or equivalent center type commands. So our structure was a little out of whack in terms of the amount of overhead we were generating for the amount of execution unit, if you will, for lack of a better term. Simultaneously, the Air Force had some goals that we had to meet in terms of manpower. So the decision was, hey, look, if we're going to have to make reductions in the Air Force, and we're going to have to do that, but you didn't want to do that at the field. You wanted to take the reduction out of overhead functions as much as you can. So the goal was to reduce overhead functions, reduce the bureaucracy part, which is important, and that preserves the function as well, but to take the reductions on that piece and then leave the folks who are actually doing the production piece of the work as intact as possible, and take the cuts from other places. So where we decided to do that was in all that bureaucracy, all that overstructure that is involved in running 12 different centers. So we collapsed that down into 5 centers. So what does that mean? What does that mean for us? The good thing is, and we've talked a little bit about some of those manpower, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit in the future. If you don't mind, I'll just sort of jump right to it. If you take a look at the manpower reductions, we're going to be looking at 18. That is a very small number. Wow. When you're talking about 4,000 or so across the Air Force or more. Yes, 12,000.
Saying was like 9, I think.
Again, so a large number across the Air Force.
In that case, losing only 18 is probably a break.
And again, why did that happen? Is because we didn't take reductions out from the field. We took reductions from all that overhead portion. So by doing that and collapsing the centers is actually what allows us to maintain such a small reduction inside that. So that's one of the big benefits of managing this change, and that when you talk about tooth to tail, right, we tried to attack that, the Air Force tried to attack the reductions in the tail piece, not the tooth piece, of which we are down here.
What's the name of the organization that Edwards, and what else besides you?
The current Edwards is called the Air Force Flight Test Center. Well, obviously we're not flight test anymore. So we're going to convert that name to the Air Force Test Center. So all the Air Force testing will now report to one center. So that will include all the testing out at Edwards. The testing down at Eglin Air Force Base will now report to the Air Force Test Center. Okay. And then here at Arnold, we will support to the Test Center. That's beneficial for us for a couple of ways. One, just as a practical matter. We're a colonel-led organization here. I report to the 3-star, a 3-star who is responsible for an entire command. Very large organization. So his ability to have insight, his ability to, just from a time constraint perspective and nothing else, to be actively engaged in us is relatively small. He has an entire command to work with, and we would be a very small piece of that. Now instead we'll have a 2-star whose sole purpose is just to look at Air Force test. A 2-star that I have instant access to at any time in terms of whatever help we need here at Arnold. So we're going to have a much more responsive result out of this. It also provides an ability to have consistency across all the test centers, or test entities, if you will. So Edwards, Eglin, and here, so that we're doing things the same way in an effort to hopefully reduce some costs there as well. So again, another
and
good
you're not
benefit.
duplicating each other.
That's correct. So now we have one guy that does all tests. We can allocate the resources much better, and the duplication is a perfect example. Is we're all in our individual stovepipes doing it our own way.
Yeah.
Well, we do it our own way, and we all do it 3 different ways. When one way would have been good. If we develop one piece of equipment, all 3 of us can use it, as opposed to just one person. So this is much better, a much more efficient way to operate. Frankly, we've been trying to do this for years, and we're just now getting to the fruits of being able to actually execute it. And it's going to be not only good for the Air Force and the taxpayers, I'd argue it's going to be good for us as well.
Oh, good. Let's hope so. All right. Let's talk about the budget. Well, then before we leave that, you're losing 18 positions.
Yeah, so let's go back and talk about it. So we're losing 18 positions. However, that turns out not to be 18 people. So how are we divided up at AADC? So really we have 3 broad categories of folks, if you want to put them that way, right? We have the largest, which is the contractor, who are the folks who are actually doing the day-to-day work by and large in the center. Then we have about 300 or so civil servants, round numbers, that work there, GS, government civil servants, and then around 50 or 60 military as well. The 18 positions are out of that middle piece, the 300 civil servants. So I won't do math in public, but that was at a few percent there in terms of 18 billets. However, we knew this was coming. So those are not 18 people who are leaving. Those are just 18 billets. So what we have done over the past year and a half is, as people have retired, as people have moved on, we've just built lapse rates, and we have not filled positions. So what that is not 18 people that we lose. It's 18 positions that are vacant right now that we will not fill in the future.
Right. Yes, I think I saw that wouldn't cost anybody their job.
That's
but,
right.
You just be some jobs you wouldn't refill.
Right. And that's a credit to basically the folks managing our civil servants out there and managing those positions, who've done a really good job of keeping track, anticipating what the future is, to really minimize what those impacts are.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, let's talk about the budget situation.
Sure.
Where you stand for this year, and whether you have any clue of what the future looks like.
Well, we got a budget, which is a trade-up. So we just recently had the budget passed, so we know what our budget is. So this year, in essence, the budget we were executing to is what we anticipate. So you won't see any further changes in terms of FY12 or what that means. Obviously, we did take some reductions going into FY12. And that turned out to be some real contractor bodies that walked out the door. Now, our ATA, again, just as we did the civil service, they do a really good job of managing with early retirements and other tools to eliminate handing someone a pink slip. But we ran out of tools at the beginning of this year, and there were, if I remember correctly, I believe 38 positions, 34 positions, thank you, that we did have people in encumbered positions that had to transition. So we already took the level paying it is for FY12. So we won't see, even though the budget just got approved, we won't see any further pain
for the balance of this year, which
yes, sir.
is like up until what?
October.
October. Right. Through September.
Now the next question is, what does FY13 mean? We're in that process right now, so we're still in a period of uncertainty of what the FY12-13 budget is. Right now, where we're looking at is we might have some small reduction. We don't know, but again, unclear. That will all get just unfold over the next several months. Ultimately, it'll be Congress who will appropriate those dollars, and when that happens, that's when we'll see what our budget really is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as a result of the flap they've had been going through recently, trying to balance the budget. the committee, the super committee they had formed to solve that problem didn't make it, and an automatic trigger went in that was going to cost the DOD wide $500 billion. So that's bound to hit. If that goes through, that'll be the next question, I guess, whether that really
well, again, that's so we're in a period of a little bit of uncertainty as we move forward. Just frankly, as we were coming in FY12 for a period of uncertainty, and that's where we're operating. So I wish I could give you some great insight into what that means, but the fact of the matter is I don't think anyone knows at this point.
Well, I guess there's going to be reductions in DOD, and what those are and where they come from is yet to be seen.
But let's take a second and put it in a little bit bigger perspective, right? So right now we get, between friends, $1/3 of $1 billion every year. So even if there's some relatively small changes.
Who is we we're talking about?
So AEDC, Arnold Engineering Development Complex now, we get roughly $1/3 of $1 billion a year.
300 million?
Yeah, $300 million or so. That's a fair piece of change,
yes,
and we can certainly operate the center for that. So even as we go in, there's uncertainty into that, but we're still going to be always, we're going to be, I anticipate us being somewhere near that range, and we will adjust and ebb and flow just as we always have through the history of the center from one year to the next. But it has a significant commitment from the Air Force, and that's a commitment from the nation on what the value of AEDC is. So there's still an immense amount of investment that's being placed in Arnold. Still an immense amount of budget authority that gets placed at Arnold to execute. So in the grand scheme of things, I think we're doing okay.
Okay. All right, with that, folks, we need to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, Grandma. It's Jake. I'm calling to tell you I love you more than anything in the whole wide world, even ice cream. I love you more than spaghetti and meatballs. I love you more than snakes and monkeys and sharks and whales and praying mantises. Bye, Grandma. Love you.
Let it all in with Charter Phone, including unlimited local and long-distance calls.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Colonel Michael Brewer, the commander at Arnold Engineering Development Center, and we just finished talking some about the budget situation. And let's talk now, Colonel Brewer, about your customers. Tell us who you currently have and who you would like to have, and things like that.
More customers is always who you'd like to have, of course, but more paying customers. But we're doing reasonably well. So, matter of fact, I was just went and spoke with the Arnold Community Council this morning, and I had a list of all the testing that we had just going to execute in the next 2 months. And in every one of our test facilities, we have a customer coming in. So even though you had mentioned earlier that hey, there's no large airplanes being developed, but that doesn't mean there's not continuing testing that's being done. And getting smart business in is part of what we need to do. An example of that is even the B-52, 50-year-old airplane. I think most folks have seen the big articles are bringing that.
Yeah.
That went so well, they've coming back. So actually one of the tests we have going into our wind tunnel is actually putting that giant model back into the wind tunnel to do further development testing on a 50-year-old airplane. So as the F-35 continues to develop, as we put new weapons on aircraft, that testing continues, even if there is not a major aircraft development going on, and we'll continue to do that work. Right now, for example, we have 2 rocket motor tests being scheduled to be in the next 3 months. We'll have 2 large upper stage rocket motor firings that will occur as well. So there is work out there. Now what we need to do is, one of the things that we're taking a look at is developing a strategic plan for the center. And you have to be careful with that because strategic plans are very often something you build and then put on the shelf and never get looked at 4 years later. So really what we're trying to do is develop an action plan. One of those items in the action plan that we're looking for is how do we go and further develop our customer base. And that means aggressively going out and looking for business and having specific actions to go survey what the market is out there, find the right customers and bring those in.
You're going to have a hustling marketing department,
and we'll talk about
call it that, but
yeah, and I'm not sure it's even so much marketing department as much as we have 2,000 exceptionally knowledgeable people out there who know customers, who know people at work, who are working in the segment of industry that we do business. And it's really just a matter of unleashing them a little bit. And I think they can bring in, again, the B-52 is a perfect example of that, where we had, that was not so much a marketing effort, but we had people who knew the right folks, got that work in, and now it's generating follow-on work after that.
Yeah, that was interesting. You didn't mention, I think that airplane's 50 years old or something.
It's over 50 years old now.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, as time goes on, if you're not developing any new ones, they're going to be continually upgrading what's in the fleet.
That's correct. And that example is a perfect example. We have a very old airplane, but we're putting brand new smart munitions on it. Well, we still had to do that aerodynamic work to put these very small smart munitions on an airplane that 50 or 60 years was never envisioned to be doing this type of work.
Yeah, I've never heard any reference to it one way or the other. Are you involved in any testing of drones, which seem to be a growing business?
We're not, though I think we could actually support some of that work. But right now we don't have any drone work that I'm aware of. For those slower speed type assets, most of that type of testing probably would be done out in California, which is part of the AEDC facility but not located here in Tullahoma. That's where we have our large slow speed wind tunnels. So some of that work could be done out there, but I also wonder what drone work could be done just by using, frankly, the airspace and ground space that we have at Arnold.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because it looks like that's a growing component. I noticed the other day that somebody landed a drone helicopter. An unmanned helicopter flew in somewhere and landed. So that's an interesting development. I don't suppose we have any idea where that's going. How about commercial business? Every once in a while you get some of that. Anything?
We do quite a bit of commercial business. You know, for example, we just completed doing the extra wide body test, large Trent motor for Rolls-Royce. I think it's Trent Rolls-Royce motor in our wind tunnel facility, or in our turbine engine test facility. Pure commercial work that was done there. We are a military organization, though, right? We're a Department of Defense organization, so we can't size ourselves in order to do commercial work. However, for capabilities that we need to do military work in, when those are not being used to help offset cost and maintain overhead, we can certainly fill the gaps in with commercial work. And that is a perfect example of, again, just having the Rolls-Royce guys go in. That helps defray the overhead cost of the facility, as well as can produce national capability as well.
Sure, but you don't develop facilities specifically to attract.
That's right. So we don't size ourselves for commercial work.
Right.
We're, again, a military test facility. But in our lull periods, we can fill those lulls to even the workload with commercial work.
So that has to be some business that the commercial folks need, and you can provide. You're already set up to provide.
That's correct, right? So we won't go and develop something that's purely commercial, right? So I won't go and develop a purely commercial test element. That's not in our job set. But if we have a military need there and it goes unused for 4 months, we can fill that unused piece with commercial work.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your strategic plan. Can you elaborate some on that?
What we've done is we sort of set some goals. One is how do we maintain our facilities, and I don't mean maintain in terms of how do we make sure that it doesn't leak oil. What I mean is how do we go about having a plan in order to advocate for the facilities that we have, ensure that we have the right facilities for what the nation needs in the future. And there are certain facilities that are less important, certain facilities that are more important. How do we know what those are? There are facilities that we don't have that the nation will need in the future. How do we position ourselves to get those facilities? So having an understanding of that. We've already talked about how do we ensure our customer base that comes in, and that we're cost effective to our customer, we provide a good product to our customer, so that customer comes back. Because even in the military world, there are other options available to people. We need to make sure that we're the best value option for those customers when we go grab that business, and that'd be one of the elements that we take a look as well. You know, there's a saying in terms of when folks talk about military events that amateurs talk about tactics, right, when you're talking about military things, and professionals talk about logistics. And if you've ever been in combat, it is whether you can feed the troops, whether you have gasoline to run the tanks, whether your airplanes are in place, whether you have bombs and bullets. Let me tell you, that's what wins the battle when it's ultimately said and done. Right. Our equivalent here is amateurs will talk about the facilities, but the professionals talk about the people. And we got to make sure we have the right people, the right trained people, the right background people to do the mission that we need done in the future. So that'd be another one of those goals as well. The last one we're going to be looking at is when we make investments, we have to consider part of the reason we make an investment is to be less expensive. So you can make an investment to be better at doing something. You can also make an investment to do something less expensively. And we need to make sure that we include that in our decision process.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Well, with that, we've run out of time, Colonel Brewer, so we're going to have to take a short break and sign off.
And I'm Mike Thompson, and we own Thompson Ford in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Lori and I bought the dealership back. It's on Highway 55. Same dealership that we had for 10 years. Look forward to serving you for another 10. Thank you to the community. Thank you for allowing us to be here for the last 15 years. Thank you for having us raise our family here.
Thank you for all your support.
It's been a great place. It's a great place to live. Look forward to living here. Put me in the ground here. I'd be proud to do it. God bless America, and God bless Tennessee.
You'll never guess what happened today.
What?
You want to see? They found a giant squid in New Zealand, bigger than this whole bedroom. Bigger than Mommy's minivan. 900 pounds. Isn't that amazing? And its eyeball, big as a basketball.
Let it all in with Charter Internet and get the fastest, most reliable internet speeds.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Colonel Michael Brewer, who is the current commander at the Arnold Engineering Development Center, one of our, clearly one of our most important organizations around. Colonel Brewer, would you like, is there something you'd like to address to the folks out there?
Sure. I mean, first I'd like to say is thanks. I tell you, Debbie, and you've already mentioned it's been 4.5 months. I tell you, it's been a fast 4.5 months. But the community, the reception we've had from the community has just been fantastic. And I tell you, it's of all places, this is you don't have a military base in an associated community. Here we are the community. We're of the 2,200 folks out there, so 1,900 are ATA employees. It's the community that runs AEDC, and there's a complete intertwining between the community and the base, and the support has been fantastic.
Oh, good. And you mentioned to your wife, do you have kids still in school?
I have one who's at university, so Debbie and I are empty nesters, so we're enjoying the area by ourselves.
All right, very good. Well, with that, folks, Colonel Brewer, I want to thank you for taking time to come and share your thoughts with us, and I want to thank you folks for inviting us into your parlor, and we will see you next time.